What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp of the Wrestling Inc. podcast here, alongside my co-host, Vince Russo. This was a heavy edition of Raw, Vince.
Yeah, it was a very heavy edition of Raw. Hey, I got to tell you,
I'll say this: a very top-heavy edition of Raw as well.
I've listen. The truth of the matter is, a lot of Daniel Bryan's career, I did not see because I wasn't watching any WWE at the time. I was working for TNA, whatever it was that I was doing. There was literally a 10-year span that I did not watch Raw. And that's when, Daniel Bryan had his run. But the last couple of years when I started watching the show weekly, God, man, there's just something about this guy that every time I saw him, it made the show different. And I'll never forget, man, I went to last year's WrestleMania and I watched the Hall of Fame ceremony. And I saw Daniel's speech about Connor's cure. And just through that speech, I could tell this human being has one of the biggest hearts I may have ever seen. Just by that one speech. Listen, especially in the wrestling business, Sean, when somebody is sincere, they come through like a shining, blinding light. I never met Daniel Bryan. I never had a conversation with Daniel Bryan. But just in watching that speech, I was like, man, this guy is the real deal, a beautiful individual with a beautiful heart. And, you just saw that, tonight. And listen, I am glad, he's hanging up the boots. I am thrilled to death. This guy deserves to have a long, healthy life. He's only 34 years old. He's got so many good years ahead of him. He's doing the right thing. But I got to tell you, man, wrestling, I always say it, Sean, there's an ugly underbelly to the business. And unless you're in it, you really don't understand it. And somebody like this was, one of the brightest lights I've ever seen since I've been involved with the business.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Now I know you're not big on independent wrestling and stuff, but shortly after WCW closed, we saw a real influx of independent talent because there were fewer places to work. Obviously, Daniel Bryan was one of those guys that, along with the likes of CM Punk and Samoa Joe, and we're getting to the point where some of those guys, with some of the things that they went through earlier in their career, are starting to feel the effects of it. Nigel McGuinness, for other reasons, had to retire a few years ago. That was one of them. And now you're seeing Daniel Bryan, to a lesser extent, Corey Graves, who performed on the Indies as well, being forced away because of this. Concussions are no joke. And I can tell you I look back at things that I did athletically and I'm like, man, knowing what I know about concussions now, it's terrifying. Imagine what a person like Daniel Bryan goes through on a daily basis, thinking about this, trying to decide, should he push to wrestle? Should he not? When he had 5 concussions in the first year, he said, maybe even shorter. This is really heartbreaking. As you mentioned, he is such a genuinely nice person that it shines through on the television screen. He's genuine. He's a kind person. He works hard. His work ethic, obviously, is unmatched. And, a lot of times that translates to what we call the internet fans. In Daniel Bryan's case, it translated to everybody. They could just tell. He was a magnetic person. He wasn't the most charismatic person on a microphone per se, but he had a magnetic personality, something different. I mean, Vince, how long have they been trying to tell this underdog story with the likes of Roman Reigns or John Cena for like what, over a decade now?
Well, listen, Sean, when you have the connection to the fans that he had, bro, that's organic. Listen, you can't write that. You can't script that. Listen, and I think I said it. When you see this guy, you know that he's a sincere, real human being. That's what got through the people. That can't be written. That can't be orchestrated. That has to be organic. But, I got to tell you, Sean, and this is why I feel like this is what I want people to understand, because I always feel like I'm fighting a losing battle when I come on here and I say week after week after week after week, these guys need to reevaluate the way that they work, because you know what? We don't want to see guys in their prime like a Daniel Bryan at 34 years old. Forget the fans, bro. This is a 34-year-old kid that's being forced to walk away from something he loves. Bro, you know how baseball players and football players, when they retire, bro, they don't retire at 34. Yeah. And when they walk away at 40 because they can't play anymore, you know what that's like. That's my whole case in point for getting on the soapbox. I don't want to see Finn Balor, retire when he's, 35. I don't want to see, any of these guys retire before they have to. I want them to have long, lustrous careers, make a good living, make a lot of money, but most importantly, be healthy. And I just really wish, bro, that everybody, the boys, the younger generation, the guys from NXT, everybody watching that tremendous speech tonight, I just wish they take something away from that, because nobody wants to see any of these guys' career come to an end at 34, bro. Nobody. And like I said, forget us, forget the fans. Bro, if it was up to Daniel Bryan, he would have wrestled till he was 54.
Yeah. Regardless, yeah.
You know what I mean? And the fact that at 34, oh, bro, it's going to be tough on him. But that's why I'm so adamant about what I say.
And, there were reports that he asked out of his contract recently so he could wrestle elsewhere. Who knows what he may or may not do in the future? I mean, I'm not one to speculate over something like that, but he may write out his deal. They can freeze it or whatever, and end up wrestling somewhere again. But it's a dangerous thing, and science has come a long way. But with concussions, we're still really, really new to learning about concussions. I mean, I know that I wish more guys would wear a mouth guard in the ring. It drastically reduces concussions. I know that's one of the reasons Kurt Angle started to do it. Several guys do it. The thing is why a lot of people don't is because it takes away from conveying emotion in the ring. I understand that, but I'd much rather have guys be safe than convey a little extra emotion. Daniel Bryan was special because, I mean, let's be real. Not every professional wrestling fan looks like The Rock or John Cena. Not every professional wrestling fan looks like Daniel Bryan. If you all saw Daniel Bryan in person, you would be like, man, that guy is way bigger than I thought he was. But he represented to those fans a little bit of hope that the everyman could do it. He is a real underdog. He's not a 6'3", 265-pound guy that they're portraying as an underdog. He really was an underdog to make it that far. What I want to ask you, Vince, is do you think more guys should look into possibly retiring? We've seen, like we said, Corey Graves had to be forced away. Christian was forced away due to concussion. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are, again, man, and this is why I'm so adamant, Sean. We have to look at the way these guys are working. And really, bro, listen, I say this all the time, Sean. Bro, you can't leave that in the hands of a performer, because you see in Daniel Bryan's case, in AJ Styles' case, bro, in a guy like Sami Zayn, in a guy like Balor, in a guy like Owens, I can go on and on and on and on. You're not going to stop these guys from doing what they love. They're going to go out and do it. But, bro, that's why you have agents and that's why you have trainers. And I've said it many, many, many times. That's why you have to protect the talent from themselves, because they're going out. All they're thinking about is there's a crowd out there. I'm going to give them their money's worth. Whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. And, bro, where I understand that and I respect that, they have to understand you have a livelihood and you have a career. And Sean, the window to earn money in wrestling is very, very short. And it's getting shorter and shorter by the way these guys work. And I mean, that's the whole thing, man. I don't want to see these guys get messed up. I don't want to see them have to retire prematurely because of concussions. But there's a way to work to protect yourself. Now, listen, concussions are going to happen regardless, Sean. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there certainly is a way to limit the chances and the head trauma. And that's what I've been, preaching about for the last couple of years.
To address a few things on our comment board, people asking where Raj is. Raj went to the Super Bowl last night, so obviously he got to see the Broncos' big win. So congrats to Raj. He'll be back next week, though. He wanted me to be sure to tell you all that. I tried to take advantage, Vince. I sent him a text right after, and I said, "Congrats, raises across the board." And I coincidentally did not get a text back. But I tried. Also, somebody said an off season would fix some of that. That WWE's never doing an off season.
No,
too much money to lose.
That's not happening.
I mean, they won't even go from 3 hours to 2, let alone do an off season. And but yeah, Daniel Bryan came out. They teased. I mean, they gave this so much coverage, and there was speculation that it was a work. But the moment I saw it on the ESPN ticker, Daniel Bryan retiring tonight, I knew it wasn't a work, because they're not going to work ESPN. There's no way they're going to work ESPN. He came out, got a great reaction, a heartfelt speech, said that he has a family to think about, and that he and Brie do want to start a family. Which, we'll talk about that about Brie momentarily, but he gave a really heartfelt speech, and man, this guy is just genuine to the very end. It's so weird to me that we could see him on TV again if they're smart. If you want a babyface foil to the Authority as a babyface authority figure, you got your guy right there, Vince.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, there's so much. Listen, this guy's not going to have a problem making a living. He is perhaps one of the most charismatic people I've ever seen. He can do whatever he wants to do, whether it's, color commentate, whatever he wants to do. This guy has so much talent. Daniel Bryan's going to be fine.
Also, another dead giveaway for the retirement being real. I noticed he got the Edge retirement haircut as well.
Yeah, he did. Good point. Yep.
He got the Edge retirement haircut. He was ready to go. One thing I wanted to ask you, Vince, you were with TNA for a long time. Were there ever any talks of maybe bringing him in or anything like that? Or was he ever brought up?
No, we knew he's pretty cemented, with the WWE, so there were never any real conversations.
This was, a somber ending to Monday Night Raw. And usually we go in kind of chronological order and stuff, but this was too big of a story to just put like that. One of the things I saw on Twitter, the one thing that actually made me laugh, they said that R-Truth should have came out and said, "Daniel, no, don't fight in the UFC. You're going to lose." And then Daniel Bryan would say, "That's CM Punk." But that did not happen. This was very emotional. It was hard. One of the most genuine people having to go out under unfortunate circumstances. And if you all ever saw that behind the scenes look of when Corey Graves was told that he had to hang it up, it's rough. It's gutting. I was getting gutted watching the pre-show, listening to Graves and Booker T talk about when they had to decide they would retire. And it's tough, but We will get into Monday Night Raw. This show, as always, brought to you by Onnit. Go to onnit.com/wrestling. Save 10% on a bunch of great Onnit products like T+, like Alpha Brain, like New Mood. I'm going to need some New Mood after this edition of Raw. I was super sad. If you don't like their product, you can send it back 100% money back guarantee. Onnit.com/wrestling. Save 10%. Use the same supplements that guys like Adam Cole, Triple H, Cesaro, Seth Rollins, Steve Austin, DDP, Titus O'Neal. The list goes on and on. Onnit.com/wrestling. Save 10%. Moving on to Raw. The rest of Raw. We opened with the contract signing, which was a virtual guarantee that Daniel Bryan would be essentially main eventing. Stephanie McMahon came out. She was interrupted by Roman Reigns and cut a good line, I thought. She said, "What a surprise, Roman. You interrupting me. That's a change." Because that happens every single week. Brought out Lesnar, brought out Ambrose. Lesnar hit an F5 on Ambrose, darted from the ring. I thought this was pretty good stuff, and this has me more interested in a Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose match. This looks like a Brock Lesnar, Dean Ambrose feud, Vince.
Well, first of all, it would have been nice, not for anything, Sean. We saw the speech at the end of the show. You can imagine it must have been very, very emotional for everybody backstage today. It would have been nice for Stephanie to break character when the people were chanting Daniel Bryan at the beginning. Then for her to use a stupid heel line. You know what I mean, bro? Not for anything. There are times in the wrestling business when you have to be human. And I would have loved to see her put Daniel Bryan over when the fans were chanting Daniel Bryan, just to break character, for that second. I hear what you're saying, bro. I don't know, man. I get the feeling there's some underlining overtones with Reigns and Ambrose that they might not be wanting to put a spotlight on. So I kind of think they're doing something under the radar in hopes that the fans don't see it. But listen, I give them all the credit in the world. I like tonight's show, Sean, and it's no joke. They did a lot of things that I'm always belly aching about. The Daniel Bryan thread throughout the entire show was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The Brock Lesnar Ambrose thread throughout the second hour was phenomenal.
I want to interrupt you for a second because I want to say this. I could have sworn that I saw on one of your shows, and it's funny because I'm sure the WWE is not watching Wrestling Inc. and taking stuff, but didn't you say on a show that if Dean Ambrose, and you even use this terminology, Dean Ambrose should say, "I'm going to get Brock Lesnar," and then by the end of the night he should, because baby faces should make good on their word. I could have swore I heard you say that on one of your shows.
Well, and not only that, they actually they did a couple things with Ambrose tonight. They actually protected him because he did get it, but also, bro, oh my God, Lord and behold, they finally did paint him as a lunatic, that he's going out there and calling out Brock Lesnar, opposed to Michael Cole trying to convince us he's a lunatic because he's flying out the second rope. These are things that I'm talking about all the time, and they did that tonight, and I got to give them credit for that, bro.
Yeah, we'll talk about the second half of that program. Ambrose did call out Brock Lesnar and ate an F5. Brock Lesnar walks off, and Dean Ambrose, crazy as hell, gets up and calls Brock back to the ring. Roman provides a distraction, and Dean Ambrose low blows Brock Lesnar. Now, I got to say this. How many times have we seen Brock Lesnar low blown? Ridiculous. His balls, their bump card is full. You gotta cut that out. Oh my gosh, that poor guy, poor Sable.
Yeah, but this is the only thing, Sean. It's little things like this where I feel like they're almost there, and they're almost there, and they're almost there. Brock Lesnar almost kills Ambrose with the F5 2 weeks in a row. Okay, bro.
Yeah.
So he low blows him. He's got him down selling. Why don't they have Ambrose hit him with the dirty deeds? When you low blow a guy, the guy's F5'd you twice and almost killed you. Now you've low blowed him. You got him at your mercy. He's down on the mat selling. Put yourself in the shoes of Dean Ambrose, the lunatic. Are you just going to walk away at that point, bro?
And get your finish over.
Exactly. Hit him with that one dirty deeds. They would have popped the crowd. It's just little things like that where I would really need somebody to explain to me, why didn't you just put that icing on the cake? You were so close, but yet you didn't do it. I don't know why. Yeah,
and to be honest, this great – well, I mean, I know you hate to use the term great, but this entertaining Dean Ambrose, Brock Lesnar stuff, I'm sitting here saying to hell with the Bray Wyatt stuff, and I love Bray Wyatt. But I'm like, man, I'd like to see Ambrose and Lesnar lock it up one-on-one at some point. But anytime Reigns and Ambrose are involved in a match against each other, I'm immediately intrigued because they've not had the turn yet. And when they do, I think it'll be big. One of the few big things they can do is something like that. But I really enjoyed the Brock Lesnar, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns stuff. Brock threw a table at Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
He threw a table at a man. He picked up a table. Oh, my God, this dude. He's an animal. But, yeah, we had that. Next up, we had another – well, not next up, but – also, we had another Owen Ziggler match. It was another good match, and Ziggler cheated to win. But somebody, I think it was Rovert on Twitter, he said that the best way to describe Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler, it's like you're walking into a doctor's office, and the doctor looks you in the eye and says, "You've been diagnosed with onset WWE Midcard, and I'm afraid it's terminal."
Yeah.
That's what these guys are right now, and I hate it. Like I said, excellent match, but when it happens at the pay-per-view, you gonna care, Vince?
No, bro, I just hate the fact. This is the part that really, really confuses me because, bro, I hated the fact in this match that they kept, he's a cheater. He cheated. Oh, he cheated. Yeah. Bro, I felt like I was like 10 years old. You know, you using the term cheater like somebody, cheated in a game of, asses up in the schoolyard. And, bro, literally by the end of the show, there was a ball line. What was the ball line somebody had? Somebody said something about their balls at the end of the show.
I can't remember.
Oh, Ambrose. Ambrose told Lesnar, you don't have the balls to come out. He had every hard-on joke in the book.
Oh, yeah, the soft.
Yeah, the soft, the hard-on, that you can't get it up to come out here, the whole 9 yards. But meanwhile, an hour earlier, we're cheating. He cheated. He's a cheat. Oh, they got to stop, bro, with that.
The little middle school stuff.
Exactly. Just stop already, man, And they got Owens going to the desk, flipping the lid. He cheated. Oh, bro, come stop already, will ya? That's what makes wrestling look so freaking stupid, bro.
Yeah, I agree. Less of the immature stuff. I don't know how many times we've said it. And guys, we are a character-driven podcast. I mean, Vince Russo's on the show. He helped some of the biggest moments of the Attitude Era. This guy helped write, and we do examine things from a booking character standpoint more than anything. And they got a lot of kids watching, but even kids got to know that some of this stuff is corny.
No, bro, do you really think 12, 13-year-olds, 14-year-old kids are talking about cheating these days? Maybe when I was a kid or when you were a kid, but not today. It's just so behind the times.
Cheating today is HGH and steroids and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if you cheat, you're going to get over. You get over by cheating.
It was the whole Eddie Guerrero Chavo gimmick that made them huge baby faces. They were cheaters.
Right.
So Next up, we had Charlotte versus Alicia. Charlotte won with the figure 8. Not much to talk about in this. I think Alicia's pretty underrated, but Brie Bella's getting the title shot at Fastlane. We heard Daniel Bryan say explicitly they want to start a family. You think this is it for Brie Bella?
Yeah, bro. Hey, bro, let me tell you something. When you're a wrestler and you're married to a wrestler and you're on the road together all the time, that's one thing. But when all of a sudden one wrestler's on the road and not the other, that's a totally different story. So number one, I don't think Daniel Bryan's going to want his wife on the road without him. And number two, I don't think she's going to want to be on the road without him. I think that's going to be just a matter of time.
We have people in the comment section wanting you to explain what asses up is.
Oh, bro, you don't know what asses up is? You go in the schoolyard, you got a wall, a brick wall. You take a Spalding ball, bro.
No.
You throw it as hard against the wall as you can. Follow me now. You throw it as hard against the wall if you can. Now, when it comes off the wall, if the guy goes to catch it and he fumbles it, he makes an error, he's got to go stand against the wall with his ass out. And the guy that threw the ball gets to take that Spalding and fire it as hard as he could against the guy standing, with his stomach to the wall. It's called asses up, bro. You never played that in school.
No, they did that as a punishment on Xavier Woods' video game channel, though. Heath Slater lost a video game and had to get beamed in the ass with like a bean bag or something like that.
Oh, no, this was you threw it as hard as you possibly could, bro. We went home with freaking welts.
Only on the Wrestling Inc. podcast, you guys. But yeah, thank you for explaining that. We also had the Miz with Miz TV. I think his mic work has been really good lately. But
bro, don't use the word. Listen, when you say great,
last week's was great.
Listen, Sean, I got to tell you, when you say great, I think of Willie Mays. I think of Peyton Manning. I think of Michael Jackson. I mean, I think of the Beatles. That's what I think of when you put Miz and great together. Oh, that's a hard pill to swallow, bro.
I thought that given the limitations they put on AJ Styles last week, because they don't trust him to talk, obviously, I thought that was fantastic what he did. I was stoked to see Miz versus AJ Styles after that, and I didn't know why. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's the Miz. This week, not so much. Chris Jericho interrupted him and took over. I did like how he took over Miz TV and made it the highlight reel. That was pretty good. Where it ended was right after that, where Jericho's singing like "All I Want for Christmas is my two front teeth" because Miz got his teeth knocked out, and the slow motion visual of that, man, that kicked ass of Miz getting his tooth knocked out. That was fantastic. Yeah, I hope they let AJ still do that spinning back fist because that helped get the move over right there. You knock one of the Miz's teeth out, you're getting a move over. But I thought that's where the good stuff ended there. AJ came out, and there was some brawling about. But what'd you think of all this?
Can I say a couple?
I bet you thought it was great.
No, not good. I got a couple things to say about this, though. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is really bothering me. And I want to say up top, listen, I am a huge Chris Jericho fan. I was the one talking to Jericho when he was at WCW, trying to get him over to the WWE. Vince did not know who Chris Jericho was. I recruited Jericho. But, bro, you know what's really bothering me about Jericho? If you notice this, Sean, when Rock comes on the show now, Rock doesn't act like the Rock from 15 years ago. He's like he's an older, more mature Rock. Same with Shawn Michaels. When Shawn Michaels comes on the show now, he's an older, wiser, mellower version of Shawn. I guess what's really bothering me about Jericho is he's still coming out now. Like in his mind, it's still 1999. Like I don't get the whole no shirt thing. This is a guy like in his mid 40s. He's not cool and hip like he was, when he was the Lionheart Chris Jericho coming out with the long hair and throwing himself into people at there. He's in his mid 40s. I don't get the whole no shirt thing. I don't get him still trying to play that same guy when it's 15 years later. So that is really annoying me to begin with. Bro, let me tell you something positive and negative. I love they're protecting AJ, and that's really good. They protected him in this segment. But somebody needs to tell JBL, bro, the term redneck is not endearing.
Exactly.
Redneck has connotations to it.
They even put it in his theme song.
Bro, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And AJ is a redneck. I mean, there's no, bro, listen, AJ grew up in Athens, Georgia. Bro, AJ got in a lot of problems with the cops when he was very younger. He was a handful, AJ. He had a troubled childhood. So he is somewhat of a redneck. But that's not really endearing. And on one hand, they're trying to protect him and they're trying to get him over. And I love that. I just don't get, I don't understand who's making the call to call him a redneck.
Yeah, I hate that. And obviously Vince hates rednecks. I mean, it's been obvious in the past. Regarding Jericho, if he were a senior, like if he were a high school senior in 1999, his promos are like a freshman in high school now. They've like actually regressed.
Yeah,
he wasn't singing little songs and saying Rudy Tooty Booty. I saw him complain about having bad customer service over a pair of $700 jeans on Twitter, and somebody said, "You can spend $700 on a pair of jeans, but you can't buy a shirt."
Yeah, so, I mean, bro, it's like, I mean, really, it's comical to a point. It's like, Chris, bro, we know how old you are, bro. Just dress appropriately, man.
I want to ask you, what is the first thing you think of when you see Ryback's new gear?
Well, Goldberg, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. For somebody who worked so hard to get over those Goldberg chants, this guy's wearing Goldberg gear. Now let's be real. If I looked the way Ryback was, I'd probably be out there in a banana hammock. I wouldn't care.
Right,
I'd probably wear the least amount of stuff as possible because the dude is a specimen. Now, if he were a heel, I think that'd be perfect. If you get Goldberg chants as a heel and you look at the crowd while they're saying it and you say Goldberg sucks or something like that, cool. That's some heel heat. But he wasn't. He was facing Bray Wyatt. Ryback's kind of reinvented himself with the gear and some moves and stuff like that. But ultimately, he lost to Bray Wyatt, so that stopped dead in its tracks.
Bro, you want to hear something funny again? We talk about character development, Sean, right?
Yeah.
And you got okay, bro, the Wyatts and Bray, they're supposed to be what? What are they supposed to be?
Deliverance, essentially.
Bro, do you see how this match starts?
How's that?
A collar and elbow lockup.
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, my God, bro, it's like you want to talk about killing a character. Well, I mean, would they practicing collar and elbow lockups in the freaking? I mean, is that what they were doing in the woods? I mean, it's like again, bro. I put so much heat on the agents, and I'll tell you why, bro. There's a lot of agents at the WWE and TNA that don't deserve to be there. When you got guys like Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble and Shane Helms that did zero, nada, nothing in the business, that's when you're going to get a product like this that's absolutely ridiculous. Somebody needs to tell me how the character Bray Wyatt, that character we're supposed to believe is from the backwoods. They're wearing goat masks and donkey masks and whatever the frig. Where did this guy learn a collar and elbow tie-up? It's so freaking elementary. That's what drives me crazy.
I mean, some of those guys, I mean, I disagree with, I mean, Shane Helms is doing great work with the X Division in TNA, and he was one of the top merchandise sellers in the company. He worked as a heel, as a baby face. Sometimes that versatility is good, but
how much money did Shane Helms make? Who paid money to see Shane Helms wrestle?
A lot of people paid money for his merch.
Nah, well, I'm not saying his merch was cool to the kids. How many people paid a dime to go see Shane Helms wrestle a match?
I'd imagine a lot of those kids that or their parents that bought that gear, Vince. I would imagine so. And I mean, let's be real. There aren't a lot of stars in WWE that draw. It's the brand that draws at this point and they've rendered it that way. It's at no fault to the stars. It's WWE has rendered it that way. But I like that Bray rarely wrestles on Raw. That's cool. He should be like a final boss type of thing, like a video game thing. But I'll tell you one thing he's not. He is not the Radical Mongoose. Did you see that, Vince?
No, I didn't see that. What was that? I must have missed that.
That is Adam Rose's new nickname, the Radical Mongoose.
Bro, they name these guys stuff and they don't even know what it means.
Well, he nicknamed himself that. To be fair,
What is the Radical Mongoose?
It's a guy who beat Titus O'Neal tonight. Titus O'Neal came off of a 19-match winning streak, and none of you would know that because WWE doesn't tell you that. So when Road Dogg, and I respect Road Dogg, tweets me and says wins and losses don't matter, that's because they've rendered it that way. If you had been telling us every week since January, hey, Titus O'Neal hasn't lost in a month or two, and it kept going and going and going, maybe his matches would mean something and wouldn't seem like filler on a show when they obviously are filler. Either way, Adam Rose won. Social Outcasts are victims. Well, I don't want to say victims of 50-50 booking. Those guys are beneficiaries of 50-50 booking. Yeah. Because before this, it was nowhere near that. After that was the Ambrose Lesnar Reigns segment. One thing I wanted to address, we had somebody saying it's hard for us to buy Lesnar as a badass when we saw him get beat up by Overeem and Velasquez. That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. Brock Lesnar, essentially, he had to have his colon basically reconstructed. The guy had diverticulitis, a life-threatening disease, and he still fought through it. At no point through his UFC career was the guy 100%. And you better believe the UFC would have held him with every bit of strength they could because he is a draw. Brock Lesnar, and that's why the UFC last year, even when he had been out of the cage for 3 years, wanted him back desperately. So it's not hard for me to buy Brock Lesnar as a badass at all. A guy who left professional wrestling, hadn't played a lick of football since high school, and almost made it, and then went to the UFC and still is the most successful heavyweight champion of all time. Nobody has ever defended that title more times in a row than him, and nobody has ever sold more pay-per-views than him. Yeah, I can buy that guy. Next up, we had a real nothing match between League of Nations and Lucha Dragons. This was used for Del Rio to get a pin on Kalisto and we talk about psychology a lot. Where's the psychology in that finish where you're holding yourself up on the top rope while Del Rio stomps you? What's up with that? That's weird.
Well, Vince would always call things like that when I would question him on something that made no sense. He would always call that artistic liberty. Every time something didn't make sense, that's what he would say.
Man, I just sit there and I think like what would happen if I went to one of my fight team's catch wrestling practices and I sat there on the top rope and I held on to the middle rope while we were grappling.
Right.
Like what would happen? I know that the person wouldn't jump up to the top rope and then stomp me. It's weird. We had another Golden Truth segment. R-Truth and Goldust teasing this tag team. Goldust was dressed up as Jimi Hendrix and smashed a guitar. This was by far the worst of their segments. I get it. They're doing the odd couple thing. Cool. Any thoughts on this, Vince? It was pretty terrible.
At least they're getting representation on the show. So at least they're making an effort to get those guys on the show and do something with them. So that's good.
I agree. And terrible at 1 minute is much better than terrible at like 10 or 11 minutes. Yeah. So, Tamina versus Becky. Tamina wins her first singles match since May 25th on Raw. Sasha Banks may have died in this segment. They beat the living crap out of her. They slammed her into the stairs way too hard, they being Team Bad. This looked a little reckless to me. Did you see how hard Sasha went into those stairs? Jesus.
Yeah, bro. This is what
on a show where we have a guy retiring.
These are the things that we talk about, bro. Yes, these are the things we talk about week after week after week.
She just came back from injury.
Yep.
She just got back.
Yep.
And these girls.
It's not good enough. It doesn't work anymore, bro, to take her by the hair, smack her head against the ring apron, have her hit the apron and fall backwards. That's not good enough, bro. Yeah. Where she's protected and she's safe. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, bro. It's let me tell you something, bro. You know when these people are going to understand, they're going to understand when they're at a Daniel Bryan age, and all of a sudden they can do less and less and less. And let me explain something to you, bro. Let me tell you how the WWE works. When you don't make money for them anymore, they're done with you. They kick you to the curb. They don't care about your health. They don't care about your concussions. They don't care that you had a great freaking match with Naomi on Monday Night Raw. They'll find the next healthy 22-year-old and go through the same process. That's what these kids, they have to understand. This is a business, and the WWE doesn't give a crap about Sasha Banks. When Sasha Banks is hurt and she can't go anymore, then Sasha Banks is put out to pasture, and they'll find the next person. And they have to start looking and understanding like this, like it is a freaking business.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Tamina got the pin on Becky Lynch. I get it. They want to give these two, they want to give Team Bad a victory before the pay-per-view, but nobody believes they're going to win at Fastlane. That is the match, Becky and Sasha against Team Bad at Fastlane. Hold on to your butts, folks. I'm sure that'll be a great one. I mean, Becky Lynch and Sasha, I'm sure we'll try to do something good out of that. So more power to them. But Tamina's been pretty rough since she came back, and Naomi looked like she almost hurt Sasha badly. Now, I'll tell you one thing I really loved on this show, at least the end of it. We had New Day being joined by Mark Henry. That was, some cute stuff, Mark Henry toying around with New Day. But they were against the Dudleys and the Usos in a table match. The real story of this, Dudleys and the Usos won, but the real story was the Dudleys making a big turn. I know you're a friend of Bubba Ray's. This is a little overdue after they were kind of not used for a while. They got the good face pop. They got they've been protected a little bit, but where do you think this goes? A Dudley Boyz heel turn?
Well, bro, let's back it up for a little bit here, okay? Because how long have I been saying, stop with freaking sending New Day out there and letting them cut the same promo from the same spot every freaking week? How long have I been saying that? That is killing them. Produce them in the back. Give them new material. Create something creative. Well, if you notice, Sean, they did that twice with New Day in the back tonight. There were 2 vignettes in the back in a controlled environment. They gave them some material rather than do the same old. So I put that over. Yeah. Yes, I like the fact that Dudley's being heels. Bubba could be the best freaking heel in the world. So I think that'll really help the Usos. I was surprised and glad to see that.
Just saying, Dudley Boyz would make for a nice little opening feud for that Bullet Club tag team if they showed up. Because, Dudley Boyz as heels, that gets a thumbs up from me because they've always worked fantastically as heels. Vince, what would you rate this show?
Bro, I'm going to give this a I'm going to force too much. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I'm going to give it a 3.5 because the format of the show, they followed some very, very basic fundamentals that are very important in building a show. And I think we're going to see that tomorrow, in the ratings a little bit. I think they did a nice job following through with the first segment to the 10 o'clock hour. I think they did a great job teasing with Daniel Bryan throughout. And formatting is very important. I think that's going to help them with the number. I'm going to give it a 3.5.
We'll have you answer a couple of questions with me before I go solo and do a little MMA stuff and a couple more questions. Vince, why do you think that Reigns has barely had any focus on him in the build-up to the triple threat, despite being the likely winner and already involved in a feud with Triple H?
I think they're doing something under the radar. I really do. I think the way you watch this play out the last couple of weeks, they're purposely taking the focus off of Reigns. That tells me they're planning to do something with him, and they want to build it in such a way that the audience doesn't see it coming. So I think he's playing a very low-profile role for a reason.
I think that sounds fantastic, and it's kind of the feeling I get. What would you think about the program turning into AJ versus Miz versus Jericho? I think it is pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's going in that direction as well.
It looked like Reigns got legit hurt by that table. What do you think, man? That's the last thing WWE needs.
Yeah. Well, bro, you can't. When you do something like that, that's really not controlled. I mean, when you throw a table like that, I mean, bro, anything could happen. A leg can poke him in the eye. I mean, whatever the case may be, you have very little control over a situation like that. So thank God he's okay.
Do you think Owens is being punished for being too popular given recent bookings? I don't think that's why. That's not why. Come on, guys.
Crazy. No.
We should have gotten at least one Rock versus Bryan match. They're two baby faces. I mean, I don't see, like, when I think of Daniel Bryan and Rock, I've never thought of like that match. It's not been one that I think. I mean, I'm sure it would have been good. Is Vince McMahon making a more of a conscious effort to ban certain moves that make wrestlers more susceptible to concussions? No, because he lets Del Rio do that stomp we were just talking about.
No, I don't believe that for a second. I mean, listen, they took away the chair shot because that's obvious. The Styles Clash, which AJ hasn't used yet, has legitimately.
He used it.
Oh, he did use it.
Yeah, he used it against Axel.
Then there's your answer right there to your question.
Well, with the Styles Clash, and it all comes down to how the person takes it.
Right.
Instinctively, when you are taught to bump in a wrestling ring, you're taught to tuck your chin like this. And a lot of guys, when they're upside down like that, that's what they do. They'll tuck their chin, and that's not what you have to do. You have to take it basically like you're taking a moonsault. You lean your head back like this, and we saw Lionheart and Yoshitatsu both, and even Abyss once tuck their heads. Can't do that. That's bad news, and you'll see guys get really uncomfortable. Were there any moves that maybe people don't know about in TNA or WWE that there was like a decree, like, do not do this?
No, the only thing at TNA, I mean, after a while, bro, was just no chair shots. I mean, that's it. Period, end of story. There were just no chair shots. I was never there where any other move got, outlawed or, it was just the chair shots.
Well, Vince, I want to thank you for joining me. And guys, Raj will be back next week. Vince, tell them about Vince Russo, the brand, Kayfabe Commentaries, your new DVD's out.
Yeah, there's a new DVD, kayfabecommentaries.com, where I go over the 1998 WWE timeline. Also, VinceRussoBrand.com, video podcasting 6 days a week, 2 new interviews every week. Up this week is Melissa Anderson, cheerleader Melissa, who's debuting in Lucha very soon. And also good old Pete Gass from the Mean Street Posse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Pete's got a lot of great Shane McMahon stories, brings us up to date on what Shane's doing. So those are the 2 interviews this week, VinceRussoBrand.com.
Well, Vince, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sean. I'll see you next week, bud.
Take care.
All right, bye.
So, guys, this is my first time going solo. Raj is usually here to talk a little MMA. Of course, I'm going to get into some more questions. Also, I believe this Wednesday again that myself and Mike Killam are going to be doing another Wednesday podcast where we talk like Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, TNA, NXT, basically non-Raw stuff. We're going to get into all kinds of stuff. Check out last week's, a lot of fun things up there. If it does well, we will keep doing it. Like I said, the more podcasts you all want and that you all support, the more we'll do. But yeah, coming off this weekend's UFC Fight Night, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson may have secured himself a title shot in the UFC. The guy had one of the most impressive striking displays of all time against Johnny Hendricks. Check out and find the highlights of that, guys. He jumped from like number 8 to number 3 in the rankings. Another story I've been hearing a lot, being sent a lot today, is John Jones. He had kind of a traffic infraction, cited for driving without or driving with a suspended license. It looks like he's just going to get 3 days of community service for that. So not really a big deal, but that fight against Daniel Cormier, the rematch, has been signed for UFC 197, I believe, in April. We'll have full coverage of that. Also, guys, if you all are in Columbus at the Arnold Classic, let me know. I'll come and say hi to you. I'll be there taking pictures, doing live coverage for the website, things like that. And that night, hopefully, if I can find hotel reception good enough, I'm going to be covering UFC 196. May have a viewing party for that. May have a live viewing party for that as I cover it. I don't know. We hear people saying 777 for the podcast. We've had a lot of people request that, and she keeps saying no. So put that on her. Demand our mod 777 for the podcast. Hijack 777, and maybe it'll happen. Who knows? But yeah, any questions you all want to get in for the next few minutes, send them at hashtag Wrestling Inc. podcast. We saw somebody say, do you think Conor McGregor would work in the WWE? Well, here's the thing. I don't know that the WWE would give a 100. When he's out of fight camp, he's 170 pounds, 172 pounds, I believe. I don't know that the WWE would give a 5'9", 170-pound Irish guy that chance, because pro wrestling promos and UFC promos, or just promos in general, are really categorically different things. In WWE, you'll see guys come out just completely unprovoked and say, I had this problem with you and I'm complaining about this and that. When you're in the UFC, you have an interviewer prompting you. Joe Rogan's in the cage and he's saying, hey, Conor McGregor, what do you think about this? What do you think about Rafael dos Anjos? That gives him the excuse to say it. He wouldn't have that in WWE, so it's really hard to say. They did try to sign Henry Cejudo, who is fighting Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson at UFC 197, who is in the 125-pound weight class. So maybe that's wrong, but from what I understand, they wanted to sign him as maybe their next Rey Mysterio. And let's be real, that's much easier said than done, making an ex-Rey Mysterio. And he's not, much different of a competitor than that. Somebody says, what happens with the mess that is the UFC heavyweight division? Oh boy. For the first time in years, you have three people who have not had title shots that could lay claim to title shots. That's Ben Rothwell, Stipe Miocic, and Alistair Overeem. Alistair Overeem is not under contract. He is a free agent right now. He may end up going to Bellator. Who knows? Bellator made a play for Matt Mitrione, from what I was told this week. Ben Rothwell just got booked against Junior Dos Santos, who is, not doing so hot lately. So I don't know how smart that booking is. So it looks like Stipe Miocic's going to get it, because the company doesn't really trust Cain Velasquez enough to do that match again after he got hurt. Somebody said, how do you think Cormier will fare against John Jones this time? I don't think he'll fare any better than he did last time, because last time you were talking about a John Jones who was not taking his career seriously, and now you're talking about a John Jones who has packed on all this muscle with powerlifting. It's unbelievable. John Jones said that the Alexander Gustafsson fight, a lot of people thought it would open his eyes, but he said it did the opposite. He did not train for that fight. I had people telling me from like day one of that camp that he showed up out of shape and didn't really care about getting in shape, didn't really care about the fight, and he still won. A lot of people thought that he lost, but he won that fight, and he said that after that, he was like, well, I barely trained for this fight, and I still beat Gustafsson, and felt like he could do that all the time. Either way, Jones says that he's got maybe 3 fights left: Cormier, Rumble, and maybe Gustafsson again, and he'll move up to heavyweight. That'll be great. Should WWE bring back Money in the Bank to WrestleMania? I've always kind of thought so. I don't see the problem with having 2 Money in the Banks, but they seem to like it where they have it. It puts something in the middle of the year that fans can look forward to, that is changing, that changes the landscape of wrestling each time that it happens, that is consequential. I wouldn't mind seeing them do 2 of them. I mean, it'd be kind of interesting to see 2 guys with a Money in the Bank briefcase maybe even argue over who's cashing in at any particular time. Don't know if they would go that far. Somebody said, hey, 777, why not join in on the podcast with Sean and Vince Russo? It might curb Russo's use of the word bro a little bit. I doubt it, you guys. What else do we have? Honestly, how well do you think CM Punk will do in his UFC debut? Okay, wanted to talk about this. Sorry, I almost forgot about it. Mickey Gall is going to be facing CM Punk. He had his UFC debut on UFC Fight Pass last week, completely just murked Mike Jackson, no relation to the famous singer, of course. Landed a left, followed up with a rear naked choke. This was a showcase fight for Mickey Gall. This was an excuse for them to be in the cage and face off, which CM Punk didn't do right. The thing is that a lot of people expected CM Punk to come in with this brash attitude to the UFC and run his mouth. He's not done that. He's treated it like a sport. He's treated it like he's treated it like he doesn't want to step on any toes, and he doesn't. Everything that I've heard out of that camp from the week that he's been there at Rufus Sport is that he's going to do this fight, and he's dead serious about it. And he's probably going to do more than one fight. That's what I've always heard. It's tough to say how CM Punk will do for one reason in particular. The UFC, CM Punk, and Rufus Sport are keeping his training footage really close to the vest for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, CM Punk doesn't want anybody to expose his weaknesses. When you are that young in mixed martial arts, you have a ton of weaknesses. Like I call fights for Absolute Action MMA, and there are guys who have been pro fighters for 5 years that main event there. And me, who I've never fought in a cage, but I've trained around, I can spot out things that they're doing wrong. And I'm sure they know they're doing wrong, but they just can't technically fix it. CM Punk's only been at it for a year now. He's been training, and he missed some time due to injury. They don't want that footage out. They're doing a documentary on his training camp, on his first year, all that stuff. So they're playing all that really close to the vest. Until some of that footage comes out, it's very, very hard to tell, because we've also seen very little of Mickey Gall. We saw a little bit of him on the Dana White Looking for a Fight show, and we saw maybe 40 seconds of him against Mike Jackson, so it's really hard. What happens if Conor loses to Rafael dos Anjos? A lot of MMA questions today. Hey, if you all could support an MMA podcast, I'd be all about it, but I got to get to wrestling stuff soon. If Conor loses to RDA, he's still got the featherweight title, and he'll probably defend it against Edgar at UFC 200. Can I get a shout out, please? Sure, Woman of Steel. Why not? I don't want to turn it into one of those, though. What is the best finisher in wrestling today? I got to go with the End of Days, guys. The first time I saw the End of Days, I was in awe. We had like one of our low-level indie guys, one of our catch wrestling guys, did a match, and I told him to kind of steal that like out of the power slam position and flip it into the flatliner, because I saw that and I loved that one so much. The End of Days. If you all don't watch NXT and haven't seen when Baron Corbin did that to Chad Gable, it was breathtaking. And they did a super slow-mo version as well that was really, really cool. End of Days is my favorite. Do you ever think Punk will return to WWE? Here's the thing. Everybody seems to come back to WWE. I don't get the impression he wants to, but here's the thing. If he does, boy, could you ever think of a bigger reaction, whether positive or negative, that he would get. People are going to miss him, so that's your babyface reaction. But then you can bring up all the times that he said, because he's never going to return on a full-time schedule. That won't happen. Imagine him coming back as a part-time guy after all the things that he said about part-time guys. Because if he comes back, he is in the main event of WrestleMania. That's the only way you can do it. That is it. Punk in anything but the main event of WrestleMania is a waste. And if he comes back and gets the main event of WrestleMania, being a part-time guy after all the things he said about part-time guys, man, that's some really good heat in my opinion. Who's this year's breakout wrestler in WWE? Do you mean last year's or this upcoming year's, who I think it will be? Let me know and I'll answer that. Are you hyped for this Fastlane triple threat? Oh, hell yeah, I am. Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar have done such a good job at building this. I mean, I think we all kind of know that Roman Reigns is going to win, but I don't know if we know how Roman Reigns is going to win. Maybe a pin on Ambrose, which is his buddy, or it's a pin on Lesnar, who just doesn't get pinned anymore. That's going to be really, really, really interesting to see. And like Vince Russo said earlier, it seems like they're trying to do something under the radar with Roman Reigns. So I kind of hope that goes down. Do you think Daniel Bryan will take up a role in some other capacity in WWE, like NXT trainer or manager, or will he stay out of everything except for a few Total Divas appearances? it would seem like almost promotional malpractice if they didn't, wouldn't it? I mean, the guy, I think of him like maybe not as kooky, but Mick Foley, remember how great he was as a commissioner and the gold that he made with Edge and Christian and people like that as a commissioner? What better foil to the Authority than Daniel Bryan coming back and having some controlling stake in making matches and things like that? He has said in his book that he didn't like training people as much because he was kind of impatient. Maybe that's changed. I don't know. But at the very least, imagine if that guy does seminars, if he just does seminars around the country for indie talent, the amount of money that guy could make off of that alone, he would never have to work again. Well, outside of that, obviously, he could make a living just doing that. That would be really good. I'll answer a couple more because I'm pretty sure I went over the hour. We try to keep him over the hour. Sean, what do you think about Strowman? I think the idea is okay, but I mean, you got Baron Corbin there who can wrestle and has improved a lot, and he's not as big as Braun Strowman, and he doesn't look the same way, but it's like, unless his thing is that he's getting just destroyed by Brock Lesnar in a few minutes, I don't know if I like it. I just don't know. What is The Rock's role in WrestleMania? They keep building it up as something big, right? Quote unquote big. And maybe The Rock's not aware of this, but he seems like, he did come out and endorse Roman Reigns, and we saw how that went over. Maybe he's not aware that if he doesn't wrestle, it's probably not big. Unless it's something that they've never done before. Him being in somebody's corner is not big. That's just not – we don't want to see that. Do you think there will be a stipulation for Charlotte versus Brie match where if Brie loses, she must leave WWE? I think there should be, unless they maybe do like a one-night run for her. Because think about how loud that crowd's going to be at Fastlane when she does those Daniel Bryan kicks. And I hope she's been practicing them. They've gotten better, but she's not the best in the ring. But imagine the pop that's going to happen when that goes down. For this upcoming year, who do you think is the breakout wrestler of the year? Ooh, if you're talking NXT, probably Nakamura, because he has a level of charisma that doesn't have to be conveyed with verbal words. It's conveyed through his actions. He has a sort of in-ring charisma that people can't replicate. That is really hard to do. On the WWE main roster, ooh, man, that's tough to say because they kill so many people's momentum, and I hate it because this is the business where you want people to be over, and they just don't seem like they want to book as many people to be over. I think maybe AJ Styles will be because, if the guy doesn't get, he can walk away at any point. I mean, he's under contract, but the guy could make a ton of money on the indie circuit. I'm hoping it's AJ Styles. They could do something special with him. Last question. Who do you think is the next guy to be called up from NXT? By all means, it probably should be Enzo, Cass, and even Carmella as the manager, not as a wrestler. Carmella's not ready to be a wrestler, but I'm sure she could do live events. If Tamina's doing live events, she could. I showed Enzo and Cass to a cousin. I watched the UFC fights with my cousin this weekend, and I kind of let him use my WWE Network subscription because wanted to kind of get him back into wrestling a little bit. Showed him Enzo and Cass. I showed him everything on NXT TakeOver London, and he was drawn to Enzo and Cass. And he said him as a casual fan who hasn't watched wrestling in years, said kind of the same thing that we always said. They're the New York New Age Outlaws. And that's what I see too. Enzo is what he is, and he's fantastic. Cass has just, Lord, that guy has improved so much over the last year, physically in the ring. Last year in Columbus, I watched him work like 4 or 5 matches in 3 days. My only thing is I hope they don't get called up before Columbus because I want to see them in Columbus. But yeah, if you guys are in Columbus for the Arnold Classic, please tell me. Hit me up on Twitter at Sean Ross Sapp. Let me know. I'd love to say hi to you, all that stuff. But my fiance and I will be there saying hi to people and taking pictures and doing the results and all that stuff. A lot of stuff goes into that. But I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. little weird doing this by myself at the end of the show, but Raj will be back next week. Again, join us Wednesday on or I think it'll be about 10 p.m. Eastern. Mike Killam and I will be doing, like I said, all that stuff. Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, NXT, I probably just said Ring of Honor, but oh well. Also, yeah, thanks to 777. She's one hell of a mod, guys. Also, visit onit.com/wrestling. Support the podcast. We got it up there, onit.com/wrestling. Save 10%. That's how we're able to do these wonderful podcasts, and I would do them every day for you guys if I could. Tell Raj to make it happen. Thank you very much, guys. Leave any comments, things like that on the comment board, any suggestions. Peace out, guys. See you later.